for our friends not able to be with us this evening. And so, since it's just a few of us, let's just take a moment, and if you could share your name and maybe where you're from and what you're interested in this evening, so we can see, that we can make sure that we can all be on the same page. So I'm Melanie. I'm the founder of Acceptance and Integration Training, and one of the co-founders of the Alliance for Integrated Awareness, which is a nonprofit that's working to advance equity in mental health care with acceptance and integration training. So who's up?
And I'm Pam Salem, that invited you guys to the equine assisted psychotherapy side of it. I have a website, Horses Teaching and Healing, and I've been in AAIT since 1999.
Thank you, Pam. Kristen, how about you?
Yeah, my name is Kristen Moore, and I currently work at an equestrian center doing EAP. Finished grad school this past year, so still learning a lot about like how to integrate other forms of therapy into EAP. So,
all right, good. And I see that orange tea, so you're local to East Tennessee. Yeah. Stacy.
I'm Stacy, and I just came to learn something new.
And Stacy is an acceptance and integration training practitioner here in East Tennessee in Knoxville, and a licensed professional counselor. Welcome, Stacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Guy? Or Guy?
Unmute, Guy. There you
Okay.
go.
Now I did it. I'm technical now.
Right. Yeah, we all are now, Guy.
Yeah. Well, it's you either adapt or die. So,
Right.
but I've been kind of following you, Melanie. I've discovered that you were one of Zivarad's.
Oh.
I think you know a friend of mine in Phoenix, Wesley Fuqua.
I do. Yes. Uh-huh.
Well, I've anyway, I'm the probably the most unlikely person to have learned anything I'm a guy from out in the middle of West Texas that stumbled on to Satya Raja.
Oh my gosh, Satyan's my spiritual brother. Okay.
And so I've been for the last 4 to 5 years, I've just been learning.
Wow.
And here about almost a month ago, I was talking to this lady in pretty close to Springfield, Missouri. And she's like 45 years old and was having trouble with her. I'm not a counselor or anything. I'm just I'm just a normal
I like that, normal.
Yeah. Well, what's normal? Well, anyway.
Guy, I would so love to hear more, and I want to make sure we get time. And
yeah, I learned about this horse therapy with this girl in Missouri. And then it wasn't a week, you said this, and I said, well, I've got to watch this.
okay, right.
So here I am.
Well, welcome. It's lovely to have you, and thank you for sharing those connections. Yeah.
Thank you for you.
Thank you. Let me just see. I wanted to I need to forward this to my assistant. This is the one that worked, the one that you sent me, Stacy. She's trying to help people get in too. So that's why, I couldn't fully give you my attention. I realized, wait, this is a story that I'm losing track of. So
Well, I didn't want to turn into a
Do you need to do more? Because I can tell him. some
no, I
stuff.
got it. It's
Are you
good.
good?
We're all good now. Yeah. So welcome everybody. I'm real glad you're here. And Pam and I have been talking about introducing AAIT to the equine assisted healing world for years. So Pam, I'll let you just sort of, I'll introduce y'all to Pam from my point of view, because Pam is the reason that we're here, frankly. That when this was years and years and years ago, probably 2006 or 7, and Pam poked me and said, you need to go to Kentucky. Zhivrod Slavinsky's going to be there and you need to see him work. And I'm like, I'd given up on finding another mentor. My mentor had died a few years previous. I'd tried. I'm like, I was very arrogant. No, I don't need any more. And Pam said, no, what he's doing is like EFT on steroids. And I'd studied with Gary Craig and I'd studied emotional freedom technique. And so that got my interest. And yeah, the first morning changed my life forever. And I changed everything around that week so I could spend all of that time with him as long as he was there. So thank you, Pam, for introducing me to Zhivrod.
wow.
And I went to Chris Irwin, if y'all know the horse trainer, Chris Irwin. Anyway, he's from Canada and he had a training near Lexington. And at that training in 2004, 2003, in 2003, he introduced us to a psychologist who had studied with Zhivrod. And so he did a brief, what they call shallow Pete. And I was so impressed with it that I went back and did what they call deep Pete. And so then, and I worked with him a few times. So I knew Melanie was trying the EFT and I'd been to a couple of her calls. And that's why I told her it was like EFT on steroids, because it just, and she had said that she had trouble getting EFT to be consistent. So I said, oh, this is like EFT on steroids. You've got to go. So she decided to go for 3 days. And like she said, the first 30 minutes, she canceled everything and stayed for the whole 7 days. So, but now we have the opportunity to have a training that she does with therapists. And then there's also a nonprofit. And you can tell them more about that, Melanie, but I think now there are vehicles for us to be able to spread this and share this. It changed my life much for the better. And and I've seen it work that way for many, many people. And I've always wanted to introduce it to the equine assisted field. I've been in that field since 1999, and I've really seen it grow and I've seen it diversify. And I think that this is something that people doing both the equine assisted therapy and the equine assisted learning in terms of personal growth can utilize this. And Melanie's now they're in the throes of developing a coaching aspect to it. So it's just a good time to introduce it for people to learn the method and be able to help people as much as it helped me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that it's a unique combination of equine assisted psychotherapy and equine assisted healing alongside AAIT. And that's what I really want to give us an opportunity to explore a little bit tonight and learn more about AAIT and how that would work. I don't know if y'all can hear her in the background rolling around and like it's time for yoga apparently. My thinking is what I'd like to do is I'd like to share a slideshow with you. It'll give us a frame for talking about this and give us a way to structure our way through to make sure that, Kristen, as a young therapist, to have opportunities and to have clarity about your direction, it's important, and I can appreciate that. I've been practicing since '84, so I can really appreciate that. Yeah, so how does that sound to you guys? I'll just share my screen and we'll start and we'll go back and forth to conversation and sharing the PowerPoint. Does that sound okay? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Let me fix that thing. This will come back on in just a minute. It's just something that happens when the screen is, when we're moving along. Okay. So, yeah, as Pam was mentioning, we now have an organization called the Alliance for Integrated Awareness, as I mentioned earlier. It's about advancing equity in mental health care with this model, with acceptance and integration training. And all of the training goes through, all of the courses go through AIA, the Alliance for Integrated Awareness. This evening, though, I just want to share where we're going. First, we're going to talk about why AAIT and equine assisted healing. And I refer to equine assisted healing because I think that it's valuable to remember that there's a lot of ways that this works, that there are equine assisted education, equine assisted psychotherapy, equine assisted healing in a lot of different ways. So we just want to explore possibilities and keep an open mind about what that is. So we'll look at what is AAIT. I'm assuming that, I know Stacy, you and Pam know, Kristen and Guy, I'm not sure how much you know, and our friends who will be viewing later, I don't know what they know. So we'll talk a little bit about what it is, how AAIT and equine assisted healing work together, and we'll experientially explore some of the principles and phases of this model and clarify how the phases of AIT reveal a clearer how with the insights and learnings that come from equine assisted sessions with people. Does that sound okay to everybody?
Yeah.
Good, okay. So acceptance and integration training is essentially an approach to mental and emotional well-being that emphasizes strategic self-acceptance and integration as a path to healing and wholeness. And so I understand that those words may not necessarily mean a lot, but what we are looking at is the operationalization of both acceptance and integration. And so having step-by-step ways to really help people discover and accept and integrate what's troubling them so that they can access more freedom. And I want to stop the share for just a second that one of the things that, that's what happens when that happens. That's weird. Okay. So one of the things that I just want to talk about for a minute is, as I mentioned earlier, Kristen is a younger therapist. This is the evening of technical challenges. My camera is here, but y'all are over there. So I don't understand what's happening with my screen situation. So I'm just going to have to roll with it. So I just want to share like the origin story. Kristen, I mentioned to you that I get it as a young therapist. And when I was my last year of graduate school, when I'm graduating, two of my professors approached me and they both told me the same thing, that if I wanted to master therapy, I needed to find masters and study with them. So that's what I did. I went out and I sought out like master therapists, and that's how I spent my career. Like I had these incredible teachers. So this this model is really the confluence and the synthesis of what I was given from my teachers. And it's a way now that I can give back to them what I was given by having this support by the organization of the Alliance for Integrated Awareness, and having these trainings that are available to therapists now to make your lives as younger therapists much, much easier to find work that works. So welcome, Nicole. Glad you're here. I'm still trying to get out of my screen so I can get things sorted again. I don't know if Mercury's in retrograde, but holy cow. All right, so I'm going to share the screen again and see how this rolls.
There it goes.
There we go. Okay, I'm going to fix this a little bit differently because I seem to be having trouble moving in and out of the screen this evening when I do it as a presenter, you know, so you guys don't have to see all that stuff. So I'm just going to leave it like this and y'all can see it, right? This is easy and I can see you. All right, cool. All right. So as I said, this model is born out of 5 streams of knowledge. Ericksonian hypnosis. I had the great good fortune to study with Corey Hammond, who is an excellent hypnotherapist. This was back in the early 80s for a couple of 3 years. And then I got to meet Bob and Mary Goulding and study with them. They were the founders of redecision therapy. And they also, they had studied with Eric Byrne and Fritz Perls from transactional analysis. I think it's important to understand the lineage of this model so you can see where the confluence of information comes from. Self-acceptance training from Dick Olney. And his idea about self-acceptance training is that self-acceptance is a training. It's learning to experience ourselves in any given moment without the inhibition of judgment, criticism, or evaluation. And you can certainly see how being around horses brings all of that alive in such a strong way, right? And then another influence is non-dual philosophy. And this is, I want to acknowledge that generally I'm the only one in the room who knows what that is. So it's a very, we have awarenesses of non-dual philosophy in most spiritual traditions in the world and most philosophical, and primarily a philosophical tradition. It's called non-dual philosophy. But what it means in an operational way in terms of healing with people is it's the absence of thought, image, emotion, or sensation other than the sensation of just being present. And when we're able to help people untangle from the myriad mental constructs that are binding them and charged energy that binds them, there's more inner spaciousness and they can make decisions that are free from the tension of thoughts and limiting beliefs and limiting ideas and past traumas. And that all comes together. We have, this is, AIT is really like, I don't know another word, there must be another word for it, but it's the operation, it's the sense of synthesis of what I learned from my teachers and the operationalization of this very profound understanding about human existence, the capacity to just be present and free of bound thoughts, images, emotions, and sensations, and how we have more access to broader perspectives when we hit that state. And then finally, energy philosophy. Energy psychology, particularly PEAT, which stands for Prime Energy Activation and Transcendence. And as Pam and I were talking earlier, it was when I met Jivarad Slavinsky, who is the developer of many of the protocols that we use, most of them. There are others too, but most of them. It wasn't until I met Jivarad that all of this came together so clearly to me. And he really mentored me through the development of this model. I showed it to him and he helped me see, where some of the holes were, and he challenged my thinking. So I'm profoundly grateful to him for his support in going through this with me. But why AAIT and equine assisted healing? And I want to kind of throw that back to you guys. Let me stop the share for just a minute. I want to throw that back to you guys. And you're more experienced with equine assisted healing than I do. So I'd like you to share with me and the rest of us, what are some of the common like ahas that come out of an equine assisted session? Where are you left with? What are you left with? And so let's start there.
Normally, what I see is, because I don't know if anybody in this group has actually done equine assisted sessions in this particular grouping, but horses help us to see our patterns, how we're reacting to certain things. And a lot of the biggest ahas, I can just give you an example where a girl got her foot stepped on in the arena and dropped the rope that was leading the horse, ran out of the arena crying, got over to sit on the picnic table where all the other clients were. And then she said, "That's just what I do. That's what I always do. I just cry and run away." And so
Mhm.
what most therapists find is that the horses help the people faster to reach an aha moment,
Mhm.
so that they get to the place where, you know, the therapist has something to work with.
Mhm.
And the therapist that I worked with said, the first session I ever did, there were so many threads going, I had to figure out which one I was going to follow.
So they're left with the insight, the aha, they get the aha quicker, but they don't necessarily have the direct path to a how, like the quick how to resolve the energy that, or the whatever comes up with the aha, right? Okay.
Right.
So this, I think, is where AIT fits beautifully. This is the same kind of thing, like there's a, yes, there's this is where I think it fits beautifully, because we seek understanding. That's the first phase. And you're doing that. You're getting understanding, you get the aha, and that's where the rest of AIT can come in. And we'll go back and go through the phases, but the next phase would be to engage collaboration with the client. This is the aha. You saw this pattern. Let's address this pattern. And within one session, generally, maybe two, you're going to have that pattern resolved. It's going to be done. You don't have to talk about it anymore. There's going to be something else that's alive and expands the horizons of their own awareness. And so how quickly the horses can reveal the, oh, wow, I do that, right? And then AIT comes in and can actually resolve the thing, right? So let's just take a moment and play with this.
Without a lot of talking, it's that they can go right into it without too much, and suddenly they're the emotional part of it, that they may get the aha in the beginning, but it doesn't address the emotion like the AIT does.
Yeah. Yeah. They get that first layer. Yeah. Stacy, did you have a question or you
Yeah.
just?
I don't have a question, but I wanted to share a story real quick because
Yeah.
I think this is important.
Yeah.
So another reason why I wanted to attend this group or meeting is because I recently went I love horses. So I recently went horseback riding for my daughter's 20th birthday. And I was terrified because the last time I was on a horse, the horse made me feel like it was going to go over the edge, but I knew it wasn't, like in my mind, but I thought it was. So anyway, long story short, I was really anxious. So I was really anxious when I got on the horse, and I was like, okay, I'm about to hyperventilate here. I'm not trusting this horse. This horse probably not trusting me, blah, blah, blah. And so I immediately did deep heat 4. So, and it was so magical for me. So that's why I know like what you're saying right now. I can see it now that I've experienced it. Like I wasn't the clinician, right? I was the client that was panicking and having this minor anxiety attack. But the quickness of how I did the deep heat 4, just riding the horse, and then it was maybe like not even 5 minutes after doing that process with myself, and the rest of the hour ride, I forgot that I was even on the horse. But also the awareness of how I put myself in these positions of these anxious moments.
Mm.
And how quickly I have to remember, like, I can use this tool, I can use this process to quickly get out of that anxious moment. So I can regroup and think, okay, come back to reality, come back to earth. Like, this is just a feeling that I'm having temporarily. It doesn't need to consume me, it doesn't need to control me. And the ease of it was just amazing. Like, before that, the last time I went on a horseback ride, I wasn't able to do that, a couple of years ago. So I can definitely attest to, and I can see how the equine therapy in conjunction with AIT can work beautifully. So I just wanted to say that before I forgot.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think that one of the things that you're pointing out, and this isn't a plant, by the way, but one of the things that you're pointing out, Stacy, is that what's one of the things that's so beautiful about AIT is everything you learn, you can use with yourself for your own care. And as a psychotherapist who has spent 40 years caring for others and hearing the stories of others, to have a means to like recognize, oh, I'm in a wonky state. And then 5 minutes later being oh, I forgot I felt so bad 5 minutes. Like, it's magical. It's really very special. I'm so glad you said you shared that story. There's so many applications for this. There's so many applications with, people who are traumatized by their experience with horses, but still love the horses. It's just heartbreaking, right? Yeah, so let's back up because we're all here to learn, right? And this isn't a time to learn one of the protocols, but to experience it maybe. So you said that one of the things that gets revealed in an experience with horses is some patterns, right? And what's a universal, what's an example of something that might be like all of us might experience as some kind of pattern that a horse might reveal? Do you follow my question?
What I teach at the recovery center is authentic connection. And that is a moment when they feel a real connection. And it's almost like there's a ribbon between them and the horse, but it comes and goes. And you can see it happen in the body language.
Yeah.
So
I think this is actually a great place to play. It's a great way to just kind of get a tiniest little taste of AIT, because we have all had experiences of authentic connection. And for people who, my daughter's a horse person, and for people who love horses, that's part of where you have it most, is what I've seen, a real authentic connection. But one of the patterns I would wonder, check me on this, you guys, is does that same ease of authentic connection flow to people? It's a question. How easy is it to authentically connect with people, or is it more awkward? It's a real question. I have the real question. I don't know the answer to that question.
some people come to the recovery center and they've never had the privilege of an authentic connection. And I will say, you all are charming. And the men puff out their chests and they grin because they know they're charming and they can get whatever they want and manipulate. But they totally get that there's a difference between manipulating and authentically connecting.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yes, once they have felt it inside, it becomes body memory. And then they know if they feel it again.
So what I'm getting at, though, what I'm looking for, what I'm listening for, and so let me see if I can be more clear, because I think that's beautiful. But what I'm wondering is, we're all human beings. There are stressors that happen with human beings and things that disrupt our state, that challenge us, So taking that challenge into a situation with a horse, and the horse reveals that we have this pattern of disconnecting. Is that fair? Is that a fair assessment? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I want to do with that is for us to have a shared practice, a shared experience of one of the protocols that we teach in the trainings, in the acceptance and integration trainings. So that you just have an experience of, okay, so this is something that is revealed. I have a tendency to disconnect. And is that something that each of you can kind of connect with, that very human tendency to disconnect? Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
or I was gonna say trust, not trusting too.
Trusting, yeah, yeah, not trusting is definitely one, yeah. Um, let's play with disconnecting and connecting. And we're going to use a protocol called the universal process. It's again, I'm not really teaching it. There's some things that I'd want you to know if you were going to be using this with other people, so you could have real effectiveness with it. And we just don't have the space to kind of go through all of that this evening, but we do have enough space for you to have that experience. So the way we're going to do it is the way we're going to play together with this. I'll ask you to find an experience of connection, really feel connection as fully as you can. And then what that means is that will provoke some thoughts, images, emotions, and body sensations. You'll just feel that. Then you'll report it back. We'll all unmute ourselves. Don't worry about talking over people. I got the room. You can then you'll slide out of that, and I'll ask you to feel disconnected. You'll muck around in that, see what thoughts, images, emotions, sensations arise, report that. We'll go back and forth like that a couple of times. Then I'll ask you to feel them at the same time. Okay, and what we're looking for then is it's just like you're opening the door to two different rooms. You're feeling the energy of both at the same time, or two stalls. You're feeling the energy of both at the same time. And I'll ask you if you can feel them separately, and we'll just see what happens. Okay. So right now, though, before we start, just think about the idea of connection. And tell me, on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being tension around it, and maybe I'm trying to think of the best way to ask this. Let's talk about connection with, yeah, because this is kind of a stranger situation, right? On a scale of 0 to 10, how uncomfortable is the connection? And you don't have to, just kind of make note of it for yourself. Or how like awkward does connection feel with people? Just sort of make note of it. And then we'll come back and revisit that in a minute and see if there's any change. Sound okay? Okay, and was the question clear, like the way to measure it? Okay, cool. All right, so everyone close your eyes as you like. It will likely help you concentrate. And oh, unmute yourself first. Yeah. And Nicole, you're welcome to play along. If you just want to unmute yourself, you can join in. Otherwise, you can type in the chat if you like, whatever serves you. So everyone, just close your eyes as you're able and really bring to mind some experience of connection. Feel connection as fully as you can. And tell us something about it, like we're a room full of aliens and we're trying to describe the same thing. Connection. Tell us something about it.
Safe.
Faith. Uh-huh.
No, safe.
Oh, it's safe. Yeah, they're safe. Uh-huh.
Peaceful.
Peaceful. Uh-huh.
Steady.
Steady. Yeah. Anything to add, Kristen?
Certainty.
Certainty. Yeah. What about for you, Nicole? Anything you'd like to add?
No, I don't know exactly. Sorry.
That's okay. Yeah. Just listen, let yourself find that experience. The experience sort of opens the door to thoughts, images, emotions, sensations. Everyone take a little breath, feeling connection. And close the door on that, slide out of that, find some experience of disconnected. Feel disconnected. And tell us something about it.
Scary.
Scary. Uh-huh.
Lost.
Lost. Yeah.
Tangled, like tangled up spaghetti noodles.
Tangled. Uh-huh.
Empty.
Empty. Can you clarify that, please, Guy?
It's like,
Empty in a good way.
it's like it's nothing. It's there's just nothing there.
Yeah, okay, I get it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, take a little breath. Let yourself experience this. Feel how this is kind of universal to all of us. We all have the access to this. Close the door on that. Find some experience of connected. Feel connected. Notice the thoughts, images, emotions, and sensations that arise. And tell us something about connected.
Grounded.
Grounded. Uh-huh.
Warm and reassuring.
Warm and reassuring, yes.
Took my word warm.
Warm, uh-huh. What about for you, Stacy?
I don't have any new words.
What's your old words?
I mean, I agree with what
Oh,
they've said.
okay. Take a breath. Just feel connected. Let yourself experience it. And most of the time, it helps if you keep your eyes closed and really focused. And close the door on that and feel disconnected. Find some experience of disconnected. Really go inside it. It doesn't have to be your experience. It can be anyone's. It's just a part of human beings. Feel disconnected and tell us something about it.
Icky.
Icky,
Lonely.
lonely,
Uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
And the awkward.
Awkward. Yeah. Take a breath. Just let yourself experience it. Feel it as a part of life. You don't have to like it or approve of it. Just accept it as it is. Easy breath. And close the door on that, slide out of that, and find some experience of connected. Maybe one more pass for now. Feel connected. And tell us something about it.
Wholeness.
Wholeness. Yeah. Yeah. Wholeness.
Peace.
Peace.
Complete.
Say it again, Guy.
Complete.
Complete. Anything to add, Nicole or Pam?
Alive, love.
Alive, loved. Yeah, take a breath. Just let yourself experience that. Now close the door on that, slide out of that, find some experience of disconnected. Really let yourself experience disconnected. That's a part of being human. And tell us something about it.
Jarring.
Jarring,
Frustrating.
frustrating,
Sad.
sad,
Misunderstood.
misunderstood. Yeah. Anything you'd like to add, Nicole?
Hard, numb, stress.
Numb, stressed. Yeah. Take a breath. Just let yourself feel it. You don't have to like it. None of us like stuff like this. Now take another full focused breath. Feel both at the same time, connected and disconnected, disconnected and connected. Feel them simultaneously as best you can as you take another breath. Now let's check. Can anyone feel them separately? Can you feel one without the tiniest hint of the other?
No.
No.
And Nicole?
I don't know. You mean feel them together or not?
Feel them at the same time. Just experience them simultaneously and notice as you do that, can you feel one without the other? For the rest of us, direct your awareness to your body. Just take a few moments and tune into your body. Notice how your body responds to them being unified like this in this way. Nicole, take another breath and just feel them at the same time again. And then notice, can you feel one without the other? Or do they
Mine kind of bleed together.
of bleed together?
It's hard to feel them together at the same time, but then, so when you're saying, can you feel them without the other? I can feel them separately, yes, like, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard for you to feel them at the same time. And that what that means is we would just do a couple of more rounds. That's all that means. So that what we just did. And for I want to just loop back to everyone else, so make sure we're all together. And so I actually think that this might help the whole group if we're game. We're going to do just a couple more rounds. And sometimes that can deepen your experience of them being unified. So stay with us and we'll pop through a little more quickly. And so everyone close your eyes as you like, find an experience of connected, feel connected, and tell us something about it. And Nicole, I'm going to ask you if you could tell us something about connected. If you're game, and you don't have to
I
be.
know it's okay. I mean, it's love,
Yeah.
just light and ease.
Yeah, take a little breath. Just let yourself experience that. Just accepting it as a part of being human. And close the door on that. Find some experience of disconnected. Feel disconnected and tell us something about that.
It's how I feel all the time right now.
Yeah,
Just like a stress and struggle and just or
yeah,
numb.
yeah. Struggle, stress, numb. Take a little breath. Just feel that. Now slide out of that. Find some experience of connected. Feel connected. It's just a part of being human. Tell me something about it.
Wonder.
Yes, beautiful. Close the door on that. Slide out of that. Find some experience of disconnected. Also a part of being human, not our favorite part, but feel it now as best you can and tell us something about it.
Awful. Shut down.
Yes, exactly. Take a breath. Just feel that. Just let yourself experience it. Now take another full focused breath. Feel connected and disconnected at the same time. Feel them simultaneously as best you can. Like feeling the air from two different rooms when you open the doors to those two rooms. Easy breath. And can you feel connected all by itself, or does some disconnected slide in there?
So I can feel them at the same time, and then I could feel them separately, like it's got teeter-tottering back and forth.
Yes, that's right. That's exactly right. So what this means is we would just go back and forth a little while longer, Nicole, to help that integration happen. And that test question is what reveals if the integration has happened. So the first round, you weren't able to feel them at the same time. The second round, you are able to feel them at the same time. So we would just keep going until you can't really feel one without the other. So let's look back at what we were talking about earlier in terms of just the awkwardness of connection. What do you know now that you didn't before, if anything new? What did this reveal to you, if anything?
I experienced it as sort of two colors of paint that blended together. I mean, it just, and I'm not a real visual meditator. but that feeling was of like maybe clouds, not pain, just coming together so that I didn't have the intensity of either feeling.
Yeah, so what's the benefit of not having the intensity of either feeling? Like, did anyone else have that same kind of, like, not the, like, yeah, what did you experience with this? How does this inform things for you around relationships or connections?
So for me, it's like connection just is. Like it doesn't have to be necessarily what's wrong with connection or what isn't, it just is. I don't know any other way to explain it.
Yeah, yeah,
Connection, it can just be something that can exist or not exist,
yeah,
versus connection, looking at it as, oh my gosh, when I'm not connected, I feel separated or sad or unattached or anxious, right?
right,
When I'm connected, I feel happy. And like it's just connection. Connection is just connection.
right. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Anything you want to add, Kristen?
I was just thinking of like perception, just like how much like connection versus disconnection is like how we're perceiving something. And not I guess not all, that's not all it is, but just how much it's influenced by our perception in a relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and what we would anticipate. I mean, we'll see. This is a group. It's like we'll see what happens. Like just noticing how connection flows for you in the coming week or so weeks. Guy, is there anything you want to add?
Well, it's being aware of who we are,
Yeah, right. That exactly. Yeah.
or
So
Now,
yeah,
now when I've done this, Melanie and I talked one time because I had a really profound experience around this. And for myself, I have found that in doing this practice over and over the years, that my mind seems to have built neural pathways. And I can feel the balance back and forth now if I have a particularly strong emotion. And the time I became aware of this when I had a really heightened grief experience and then a heightened joy experience. And as I drove home, I had the perception you're talking about, Kristen, of wow, what a day I've had, that I started out with all that grief and wound up with all that joy. And all of a sudden, it went back and forth, like Melanie said. And and once I realized it was moving, I let it move. And I was driving, and it was doing this like the ocean, you know. And all of a sudden, it just integrated, it neutralized. And the power of those two emotions neutralized in that day. And it wasn't that I didn't feel either one again, but the charge that had been there in the difference of it
yeah.
neutralized.
Yeah, and this is you're really speaking to the cumulative effect of this work and how it's quite profound, how the cumulative effect and how the brain starts to just navigate a course that's so much more peace-filled and ease-filled than otherwise we would do.
And the ease, I've heard people use that word quite a bit on this call, and the ease is what has been profound for me and was that day.
Yeah. So what we just did with connected and disconnected, this was a very brief, you could see very kind of light, because we would make sure that to stabilize the work and go a little further with a client individually, or with, like, if we're working with psychotherapy group. But what I want to point out is like, this is a pattern that someone might bring. I'm disconnected. And we have like 30 protocols to use to help people, like the perfect match to help them resolve that feeling, the pain of disconnected, the pain of it. Let me go back to the slideshow real quick.
And this is done without being intrusive, because
No, yeah, it's
they
not.
they pick the image or the thought or the sensation, so they're not necessarily telling what it is. So it's not intrusive.
No, this model is not built on a narrative. It's not built on endless storytelling and endless trying to find out what the source of the original pain. This is not like that. What we understand is that 70% of our clients want their therapist to use a directive approach aimed at specific goals. People are suffering. I'm curious if this isn't even higher after the pandemic, because people need rapid resolution of their problems, their suffering. And AIT really provides that structure that clients crave. And it gives us as practitioners, as therapists, like a real rhythm to the session that feels so juicy, you know. It's a model where we seek understanding. And this is where a lot of therapy, as I said, just stops. You know, we spend time in discovery, trying to understand. And what goes on instead is we move towards engaging collaboration, what people have found, like in what you found in the equine assisted session, that's what we're going to work on, or what you found in conversation. We agree this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. So just like we did, I described a little bit about what we're going to do, identify what we're going to do, then aim to resolve that reactivity using AIT, using one of the protocols that aim to help people experience integration. Then we verify and stabilize the results. Now, this is an aspect to this model that is profoundly different from other approaches. That every session, the practitioner asks the person, how do you feel about that problem that we just worked on? How likely is it that problem is going to come against your will in the future? And I'll go into this a little bit more if we have time, but we're verifying the results. And then the next week, we verify the results again. You know, that problem that you were working on before, feeling disconnected from your wife, how is that now? Oh my gosh, we had such a good week. We hear it over and over. And the other thing, people say, oh, I forgot I was feeling disconnected, which is fascinating. So, the other aspect to this part is stabilizing results, which is another place that's AIT is different. Once people have that place of peace and well-being, then we really work to stabilize that, so it gives them a little more familiarity with it. One of the things that happens with people who have been traumatically wounded or wounded in some other psycho-emotional way is that feeling okay doesn't feel safe to them. And until we can address that, and we do address that, you know, and pretty quickly with a pretty simple approach, people are okay being okay. And then the final step is embodying that new knowledge and embodying the true self, something closer to the true self. And there's some guiding principles of this approach. I'm only going to talk about two this evening. The first is on a low level of consciousness, there are no solutions. And on a high level of consciousness, there are no problems. And this is profound. Like, people come to us suffering. They are generally on a lower level of consciousness. When we can help them raise their consciousness by resolving the reactivity that's troubling them, then we have access to those higher states of consciousness and broader perspectives that reveal solutions to them that might otherwise be hidden. So does this make sense to you guys? Is this clear? Yeah.
Yes.
Good. And another, just like I said, I'm not going to talk about all the principles, but one I think is really important. And it speaks to what Pam keeps going back to, is that we don't have to do a lot of storytelling. This is not about a laborious excavation into the past. This is about taking the aha that you experience sometimes. And we have ways of accessing that aha too, but with horses, it's so right there. So this is about taking that aha and the how of how you resolve that aha. And it's not about a story. We're working from the understanding that the true self, who we really are, is not encumbered by the limitations of a narrative. The true self is a being. And so practitioners hold that awareness. We hold that awareness about ourselves. We hold that awareness about others. And it gives us direction so we have a really efficient approach to our very limited clinical time with people. We have the great good fortune to have an hour, if that, with our clients. And we have ways of being clinically efficient so our clients get the most out of that time together. It's so much more than sharing tea and stories. Now, I said that, the true self is not encumbered by the limitations of a narrative. However, most of the time we feel like we are, and we are identified with the conditioned self. The conditioned self it's formed by our traumas and early decisions, the injunctions. Injunctions are all the shoulds, all the ways we think we should be, and all the do's and the don'ts of life. Our scripts, identities, wounds, limiting beliefs, mental illness, of course, cognitive distortions, of course, and so much more. And it's like we start out in life as this beautiful, shining, brilliant being, and then get wound up in a tumbleweed of all this pain coming from being human. And what AIT is about is helping this beautiful being untangle from the tumbleweed and the briars that trip us up and get triggered in life, so that we can respond to life and live from a place that's closer to who we truly are, rather than the conditioning that we normally identify with, which we normally identify. So the first phase, I just wanted to spend a little time talking about the phases, because I think you'll be able to see how equine assisted healing is such a perfect fit for these phases, because so much of it you're already doing. And then, as I said, this takes it even further. So the first phase, we're seeking understanding. We're discovering what's alive and real for our clients that week. We're connecting with them, and we're listening for charged content. What I mean by charged content is charged thoughts, images, emotions, and sensations, and we'll hear them in our clients' stories. And we're checking on the durability of the work from the previous session. As I said, we're again verifying those results. The second phase of the session, and the first phase takes 10 to 20 minutes sometimes. The second phase is pretty quick. We're engaging collaboration. We're narrowing our focus, clarifying the area of focus for the session, identifying the clear problem or the clear goal, discussing briefly the approach we're going to take. And for us, we're remembering with whom we collaborate with. For us as therapists, we don't always talk about this, but really remembering that we've got our eye on the ball. We have our eye on who they really are, not all their conditioning. We have our eye on the conditioning, but only as it relates to freeing them. I hope that makes sense. And I've mentioned thoughts, images, emotions, and sensations, and this is just the energy that binds us. It's like we get all bound up in this. And when they're neutralized, when this charged energy is neutralized, we're no longer tethered to the limited states and compulsive patterns and reactions that we're normally bound up in. AIT neutralizing these thoughts, images, emotions, and sensations, when they're neutralized, there's nothing for the similar situations come into life. There's nothing for it to hold on to. We're no longer triggered, because that tumbleweed is not easily caught anymore, because there's nothing there for it to catch on. The third phase is to resolve reactivity. And this, we just did a brief introduction of how we would do one tiny little way we would do that. And what we're doing is resolving the charged energy that's associated with the problem using the integration protocols. And we verify those results. The first thing generally is to direct awareness to the body. Now, we know the body won't lie. And you all could feel like, I would imagine for you, Nicole, there was still tension in your body because there wasn't complete resolution, maybe a little lightening, but not complete resolution. When there's integration, generally the body is very calm, more relaxed. And if it's not, then we use that as a way of understanding that that the problem is not resolved. So we'd go on, we'd move on to other forms of verifying and addressing this. So if, let's say, the body is relaxed, we check the problem again, sometimes subjective units of distress, how much of a change did you notice, if any? We're going to check and clear the future. So what that means is asking, how likely is it that that problem is going to impose itself on you in the future against your will? Now, this question is not something that most therapists ask in their sessions, but AIT practitioners do, because our clients are coming to us for healing. They're not really coming to us to share, except with the idea that perhaps sharing will heal, and it doesn't always. So we're really paying attention to that question, how likely is it that it will impose itself on you in the future against your will? Now, we've clearly identified the problem. So the client will be able to tell us not very likely or somewhat likely, right? And if they do, then we're going to keep going. We're going to resolve that tension by exploring, is there another point of view, some other person that has some perspective on this that we may not know about that's important to resolve? Is there some kind of unconscious opposition to the resolution of the problem? And if so, we've got a protocol that can take care of that really quickly. And then we're going to check again, how likely is it that the problem will impose itself on you in the future against your will? And generally, it's not likely once we go through all of that. Then we're going to stabilize, focusing on the relaxation in the body and allowing that to expand, and spending time to help people get used to that expanded inner state, that steadiness inside. Often this includes kind of filling the body with light, appreciation, and even forgiveness. For some people, that's an important part of their work. And finally, embodying the true self and new knowledge. So this kind of goes into taking some time to have conversations with our clients about, what do you know now that you didn't before, if anything new? How does that change things? So instead of leaning on the understanding that insight produces change, we're backwards with that, or upside down, and really get that change produces insight. When there's not charged energy, there's more calm, more spaciousness inside, and then that person has access to their own wisdom and their own perspective that is so often so much more valuable than any imposition or interpretation we would impose on them. The power is in the patient, and this just gives us access and gives them access to that power.
Yeah.
And in equine assisted therapy, a lot of that would be, well, some of that would be, what are the horses doing now? Because the horses are going to give us biofeedback with how they respond and how they act.
Yes. So then you go back and, oh, that's beautiful. Of course, Pam, of course, with the horses, you're going to get that verification as well. But if you're in a session and you don't have a horse around you, then you still can get that verification. But
absolutely. Absolutely. But if we're talking about this for equine therapy, you're going to see a horse maybe lick and chew or yawn or release.
This is beautiful. I had not made that connection, but you're absolutely right. That's going to be where the verification comes from. And
Because when I was on that horse and then I did the process, he stopped chewing on his metal piece. Sorry,
really,
I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to say
no, that's really interesting. So you experienced that same dynamic that Pam's talking about.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. I think that
and if we were going to use this in the kind of equine assisted work, then people need to be able to see that reaction and translate it, just like you see it in a session in the office.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we don't need the horse there.
Exactly.
But the horse is going to open people up to this and then give them also feedback.
This is beautiful. I
So
think
that's a part of integrating it with this particular work that I think is valuable.
yeah, yeah.
What I saw with the horses, that's just kind of like what Pam did for everybody at the beginning, breathe.
Mhm.
And the horses, that's it's nature, it's the feminine. So if the horse wants to love us, and he wants, or they want you to love them, just like your dog or cat or whatever, they just want you to love them. So if they can connect, and so you're kind of shortcutting the clinical setting
Mhm.
to where the horses can kind of
Mhm.
speed up that setting. To me, that's where I see where,
Yeah, that is one of the principles, Guy. You're right about that. And horses, the reason they're different is because they're prey animals. And what they want from us first is to know they're safe.
yeah,
Okay, because things eat them. So and then they, they want to connect. It's kind of like they have their own Maslow's hierarchy, and their base is security. They've got to feel secure.
yeah,
A dog may not need that, but a horse does. A horse needs to know, is this person going to be able to lead me
yeah,
and keep me safe, or do I have to take care of myself? Okay.
And this
And
is
and they'll give you that feedback. So
yeah,
that's why I say in this work, the protocols that Melanie teaches can intersect with this really well.
yeah,
yes.
yeah. I could see. Yeah. No, y'all
You-
keep on. I'm just,
No, I'm glad you're here, Guy. Kristen, do you have any questions? What you've heard so far? We've got just a few more minutes. I want to make sure I wrap up on time. Do you have any questions or comments? Same for you, Nicole and Stacy.
You'll have to unmute, Kristen. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just taking it all in, and I definitely see the connection. I mean, even in sessions I just did today with the horses, like I definitely can see the way that this embodies itself in that relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Nicole, is there anything you'd like to add or any questions you have?
No, thank you.
Okay. So I'll go back to the slideshow real quick. And I'm just not going to try putting it on full screen because technology tonight, we're having fun. So this is Stacy, she's here with us. And I just wanted to share with you that therapists love this work. And Stacy, you can speak to your own experience probably better than I yeah, definitely. Is there anything you want to share about being a practitioner of this model? Don't want to put you
Sure.
on.
Okay. Yes, so I have been practicing for about 20 years. So I took the acceptance and integration training probably about 3 years ago with my first class, and then took the foundations course, the fellowship, and then became certified. And I can tell a drastic difference in just one, my own fatigue and my own frustration with people not moving, the way I know that you can as a human being, that you can heal and you can move forward and you can shift to different belief systems with just talk therapy. So learning these protocols were really helpful for me in my personal life, and then just teaching it with the clients. Like I said, I had a shift in just the natural fatigue of being a therapist and the burnout, and not seeing movement the way I know that they can happen. And so after learning the AAIT, the acceptance and integration training, I was able to get results quicker with the clients, which improved my burnout.
Less
Right.
feeling of frustration.
Yeah, my burnout and less feeling frustration is helpful, but not just for me. I mean, I want, when clients come to my office, I want them to feel better. I want to be able to help them. I want them to have progress and show themselves that they can heal from things and they don't have to carry these things that are going to control their lives. And so to have something tangible to work with was like
Mhm.
like
Yeah, that's the how.
breathtaking for me. It was, yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Stacy. Yeah, and Stacy recently completed with the Alliance for Integrated Awareness. One of our programs is to provide trauma sensitive coaching to marginalized and at-risk people. And Stacy just completed a 6-week course with young adults who are residents of Bryant's which is a local house that houses recently unhoused LGBTQ young adults. So that was awesome. And Stacy is also the team lead of our community cares team. And this is the team that looks out for all the practitioners for AIT to keep us supported. So thank you for that, Stacy. So let me go back to the slides because I do want to make sure I don't miss anything. This is a way I remember things sometimes. So as I mentioned, we have the trauma sensitive coaching, and we also have the other program is partial scholarships for therapists who are serving marginalized and at-risk communities. Those are our 2 programs. And as I mentioned, all of the training goes through the Alliance for Integrated Awareness. Now, what Stacy mentioned is she's a practitioner. She did foundations first and then became a certified practitioner. And this is really, this training is really for therapists who appreciate experiential learning. You really enjoy seeing change real fast, real change real fast. Some therapists are so wedded to long storytelling, it's just not really going to be suitable for them. If that's, if you really like, that's really, really what you love. But if you are really after seeing, and facilitating really significant change with your clients within a single session or 2, this is a no-brainer. And it works for you too. So if you want something that works for you. The other thing that we found for therapists who really appreciate this model, or therapists who seem to have are really interested in the confluence of healing and spirituality and psychotherapy. Now, if you bring horses into that, this is the same. Like if you're interested in spirituality, horses, and psychotherapy, this is really a beautiful fit, I think. So we have we have 2 main entry points, the foundations course, and our next foundations course starts in July, the 3rd weekend in July. And you can find out about that at AAIT, AIA.org. Again, that's AAIT, AIA.org. That's our website. And you can just look on events and see that. The certification program, just so you guys know a little bit about what this is like. The foundations, just to kind of walk through it, it's 3 days of live virtual training. There's 7 protocols that you learn. You learn more about the crucible of like creating the container for people to do this kind of work safely, the principles and phases that you've already been introduced to. And these are small groups. Our trainings are small groups, and there's live coaching. And what I mean by small, it could be a group of anywhere from 7 to 12 people in the room. And the certification program for the fellowship training group, or the FTG, these are 7 monthly virtual trainings. They're live, and you learn 21 protocols in that. And I didn't even begin to talk about the trauma work tonight, because trauma work is like super quick with AAIT, and I just didn't talk about it tonight, but there's a tremendous value with the trauma work. You get introduced to trauma care with AAIT and foundations, and then take it a little deeper in the fellowship. One of the things that I hear consistently from the community is what a rich learning environment it is. Like, I didn't really know this. I have learned in groups like this. This was like, I had the great good fortune to have experiences like this. But I understand now that it's a rare opportunity to have this kind of experiential learning with live coaching with while you're doing like tremendous work on your own and experiencing real gain. So I just want to really make sure you guys can stay in touch. You can sign up for our newsletter. We announce trainings there. We have events there. We have a retreat coming up here too, a fundraising retreat. You can find out about that at AAIT.org. Of course, you can join us on the Facebook community, the AAIT community in Facebook, and stay in touch that way as well. So are there any questions, comments, anything else you want to know about, like how to move forward if this lights you up in any way?
Melly and I have a friend who
I
is a
can't hear you,
therapist.
Guy. It looks like you're talking, Guy, but I can't hear you.
Well, I was thinking about talking.
Okay. All right. I thought you were talking. Sorry, Pam, but I thought he was talking. I thought, can't he?
Okay.
Go ahead, Pam. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, we had a therapist friend, and she said she couldn't do couples because she got so frustrated. I thought about what Stacy was saying. She said she got so frustrated with couples that she would yell at them, so she had to stop doing couples.
Probably a good idea.
Well, I don't know if this is, but I know about what's interesting about what you presented today. About maybe a month ago, I had this dream, premonition, whatever you want to call it. And it was having something basically what you've just set up, or what you've done with your foundation.
Wow.
It's to have this horse therapy. I didn't see it as horse therapy, but being a tool in the workshop of helping people, whatever it is. You take people from wherever they come. You don't, I've talked to, everybody wants. I had a yoga teacher one time. She said, I wish that all of my clients were like you. And I said, well, I guess that's kind of a compliment, but I said, we all want the easy, life smooth, but, but you take people as they are, and sometimes to do the simple process that you did at the beginning, even though it's simple, it's too much for some people. They just, they're afraid, they're whatever. And they could maybe be comfortable with a horse.
Yeah,
And I find, Guy, in the work with the horses, that less is always more.
Yeah.
yeah, and
you're the client, the person that's suffering will tell you what they want. I look at it as what I've learned with my knowledge. It's my job to listen and to see what it is their suffering is, what they're looking for.
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And sometimes they can't define it,
Couple
but
more minutes. We have just a couple more minutes, so I wanted to make sure that yes, Pam, sometimes they can't find it, and that's where
they can't define it. They can feel it, but they can't find the words sometimes.
Yeah, you just can't verbalize.
Yeah, and this is why the training is so immersive. It takes a while to learn how do we help people walk people into this, even when and I think of what you guys bring to the table and where our collaboration with AAIT and equine assisted healing would be, is that the patterning is already revealed. The verification is right there in front of you. And so this just gives you a mechanism for that mystery part of now I know what's going on, but how do I address it? This is where AIT comes into play.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we wrap this up this evening. I want to thank everyone for coming. And please reach out, if you're curious or you want to know a little bit more. Applications are open for both the upcoming foundations and the fellowship training group. So if that's something that's interesting to you, I encourage you to apply. And you can find the applications on the website. And if you just want to check with me or another practitioner about what this is like, you can always post in the Facebook group and practitioners will engage too, but you can contact me. Okay. All
Thank you.
right. So thank you.
Nice to meet all of you.
Yeah, it's really nice
Thank
to meet you.
you.
guys. Nice to meet you, Kristen. Nice to meet you, Nicole. And Stacy, good to see you. Guy, it was wonderful to meet you. And you're my brother. And yeah, and for our friends who are catching this on the replay, thanks for showing up and listening as you're able. All right, everybody.
And I can take questions too at horsesteachingandhealing.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
What is
Pam.
that again?
Thank you. Yes, I'm so sorry I didn't put that on
Horses-
It's
slide.
horsesteachingandhealing.com. And I have a Horses Teaching and Healing group, Facebook group.
Yeah,
you.
I apologize for not putting that on the slides. I meant to do that today and totally forgot. So thank you, Pam. I'll make sure that slides have that remedy. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. Have a great evening, and I hope to see you in our AIT community.